I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action.
You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is.
Starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger.
If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your worth.
How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? This is Rob, and I'm back with episode number 374 of Shut Up and Grind. We're all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you to clear whatever's blocking the path from whatever success you want in this lifetime. So today, before I bring my guest on, I want to talk to you about manifestation. Right, so people will hear this word and they'll think it's cliche. Doesn't matter if you think it's cliche, it's real. Right? You can really speak things right into existence. So on my other podcast that I do, the New England OCR Expo podcast, I was interviewing two gentlemen who set up this event over the weekend on Saturday. So now this is Wednesday. And I just inserted into the conversation, if you guys need an MC, just let me know. Thinking that they probably already had one. And just from me asking that one question, I ended up spending 9 hours and I MC'd the largest event I've ever done. Like between guest spectators and everyone else, there had to be over 1,000 people there. Usually we'll get about like say 70 to 100 people. And this one we had over 600 people who participated in the event. And so now I have that contact with those two directors. They got to hear me speak. They got to hear me perform as an MC just from me simply asking the question. All right, so it's not always about having the right time or being in the right place or the who do you know. You just simply have to ask. That's it. All right, so for today's topic, I titled this one, "That Purpose Will Save Your Life." And helping me have this conversation, let's scroll up. Ever since they updated this thing, all the buttons are all over the place. All right, this is I'm going to be bringing on Jay Setchell. And he says, you are one choice away from becoming someone you've never met. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you decide. And I love that saying. So let's bring on the man behind the saying. This is Jay. How we doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Robert. Thank you for having me, sir.
All right. Where you joining me from?
Well, I'm joining you from Central Texas, kind of between Austin and San Antonio.
Central Texas. All right. Are you originally from Texas?
No, I'm a farm boy from north central Illinois, just south of Wisconsin, about 70 miles. So born and raised on a farm that we still have in the family, had it for 8 generations now. So
Wow, that's amazing. All right. So today we're going to be talking a lot about purpose and all that. But before we dive into that, I want to know, who is Jay at your core?
a survivor. I believe a survivor is a good answer, given everything I've been through and the purpose that I'm here. I believe I'm only here by the grace of God. And I really want to reach out and help. And the older I get, and I think that that's probably true among most people, the more you realize that you help by giving back. You help by encouraging. You help by pointing out the positives, as mentioned before, the manifestation of what your goal is. And I think that's just really it. I've accomplished a lot. I've done a lot, considering all this what I've been through, but yet it's the times that I'm able to help people or encourage people and see them have tears, have a smile, see the positive end of it. I think in my core, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to
Yeah,
be.
see, and that's exactly why we do what we do. It's that giving back. That's the whole point of even doing this show. Because I know you've overcome a lot in your life. I've overcome a lot in my life, and people think that sometimes their circumstances just unique to them. And chances are there's somebody out there that's been through what you've been through. And so getting these stories out there, it helps people connect and allows them to tell their own stories.
Well, I think a lot of times other people maybe have been through some of what you've been through, but maybe not all that you've been through. They've not been
Yeah,
through with the background that you had before you went through it, but it's
yeah,
how they handle it. It's what they do with it. It's what they make of it afterwards. So I think that's the big thing. It's like some people just shut down. Some people don't
yeah,
want to persevere. Some people don't want to face that adversity. Some people don't, and a lot of it's where do you find that strength? Where does that come from? That's something within. It's innate in yourself. It's innate in me. Is it part of your DNA? Some people say that can't be your DNA, but I'm not convinced that it can't be. It's how you're raised. It's my youngest memories. My mother and father always said, "If there's a will, there's a way." And
yes,
and if you think about it, that's it. You can always find it if you want to do it. And when people tell me they can't, that simply means they don't want to or they won't.
yes,
Because
exactly.
anybody can do it. It's just a matter that they won't do it. So,
Yeah, yeah. So I say in a lot of my talks that going back to what you said about DNA, every single human being on this planet has the fight or flight response. Every single one. So it literally is in the DNA. What happens is society conditions people for flight, and
mm,
then the people who are the fighters are seen as different or weird. So you get those of us like you heard in my intro where I was told I would never run and jump again. I never uttered those words except for that first split second when the doctor said it. I thought about it for a split second, then I was like, no, I don't accept that. And then everyone thought I was nuts for the way I was rehabbing until I made that full recovery and I defied those odds. It's like everybody has it. People, to your point, are just unwilling to tap into it.
yeah, exactly. And when I broke my neck and drowned, I was paralyzed from the shoulders down. I mean, they told me I will never, at best, I might get a little function back. And
Yeah.
I had a gentleman say a prayer for me, and and he prayed for my recovery. He prayed that I would be able to, excuse me, walk. I'd be able to move, and I often have asked myself over those years, what if I would have declined that prayer? That's like declining God. That's like rejecting, and and I'm not trying to make it religious. It's just the fact that it's a belief system, and I never gave up. I wouldn't quit. And something you just mentioned, that the people that go out and do quite often are maligned because they did do it. There's too many people that don't want to do it. There's less people that will do it than there are that will that you know what I'm saying. There's
Yes.
more people that there's less people that will do it than there are that won't that that will do it. I don't know. You just got to get up off your butt and go do it. That's all.
Yeah. Well, we live in a society now where it's weak if you ask for help.
Yeah.
And people have to understand that we were put on this earth to work together. Like nobody was meant to be independent or do it themselves. It's like there's no true independence anyway, because you're not unless you're farming your own food and hunting your own meats and doing all this other stuff. It's like we need each other to survive. So reaching out is one of the strongest things that you can do. And by trying to do everything yourself, you're making your life more complicated.
Yeah, and I think that hitchhiking on something you said a minute ago, you don't have to feel bad about. You don't say, "Hey, I need help." You can simply say, "Robert, you mentioned something a couple minutes ago that caught my attention. Could you enlighten me a little bit further into that, or help me with that
Yes.
in that direction?" You're just being honest. Because you're not going, "Oh, woe is me. I can't do it. I need your help to do it." No, you need your help to do it. You just might need a little direction or encouragement. That's all.
Yeah, I was talking about that with a friend yesterday. She was saying that, just throwing out ideas. And she's like, "No, I need to do this myself. I need to do this myself." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "But there's nothing wrong with getting some guidance." Like when I started I had a business coach. It was like I wasn't doing everything myself. It was like I took someone who has what I want, and I picked it. Of course, I paid them, but then you pick their brain.
Oh, it's well, yeah, and there's no limit to what you can ask or do, and even if you find out things that you don't need now, you may need later, and then you can fall
Yeah,
back and say, you know what, I remember when Bob said something about this, or Richard said something, and or an example was given to me, and I think that just telling people certain things at certain times will change their life. It just
I
forever,
agree.
and a lot of that will change your life. And I've had
Absolutely.
that.
So
I've had that happen.
yeah, yeah. See, and I wanna dive into that because you mentioned the broken neck. Okay, so what happened? You said you broke your neck and drowned. So just take me
Well,
through
I
that.
well I've been dead 3 times, and then I should have been dead 3 other times. Um,
Wow.
First time was when I was 19 years old in the Marine Corps, and was involved in an accident trying to take another Marine back to base that was injured very badly, and his wife was holding a compress on his head, and where they'd cut his ear half off, and it slit his head and throat, and it wasn't a good thing. He worked for me in the criminal
Wow.
intelligence, and we hit a semi. Semi pulled out, had no lights on, no running lights, no reflectors, no nothing. The car blew up and burned, and
Wow.
it wasn't good. I spent a year in the Naval Hospital and went through a coma. The second time I had a drunk hit me almost head on, a drunk that I didn't realize had. I just thought it was a narrow road way out in the cornfields of northern Illinois. And I just thought he was like looking at the cornfields. I don't know. I just, and as I came closer, I realized that something was wrong. And I glanced away for just a second, looked back, and he was on my side. And he got thrown out, run over by his own pickup truck, didn't have a seatbelt on, and
Jesus.
got killed. And I had my seatbelt rolled several times, and they cut me out of the car. But in the meantime, I had a way bad out of body going into the heavens because I bled out. But the third time was July 4th, 1981. I was 31 and a half, and jumped in a swimming pool. I had 3 or 4 guys going to throw me in just for the heck of it after playing volleyball most of the day. And I said, no, 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 no. Wait till I get my boots off and take my billfold out. And rather than let them throw me in, I just thought, well, I'll just jump in. And I landed on my feet, had a compression fracture. I didn't bend my legs apparently, 3.5 feet of water, threw my head back, had contacts in. And I remember drowning. It got very quiet, got very silent, very dark. Um, that I don't remember them rescuing me, and it was several days later that I was told that I had this thing bolted into my skull, and I'd broken my neck in a swimming accident, and we're going to see if you get any movement back, and at best you'll have some movement back a little bit, but we don't expect you to ever be able to really get around ever again. So, you know, uh, from there it's a real long story that would take more than this podcast time.
Yes. Wow. So that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. I don't
Well,
even know where to begin.
well, it's a lot, and then I had some shoulder surgeries, and everything went well. This is about 20 years ago, and I ended up with MRSA staph infection, which only about
Yeah.
20% of the people live out of it. And considering that at the time, my age and everything else I'd been through, and I was in the hospital about 5 weeks, and they did over 100 tests. I mean, my temperature was off the charts, and how I lived through it, I don't know. I went home with a PICC line in my heart at administering uh, medicine for about 2 months, and I got through it. Part of it's because I'm stubborn, but 4 years ago, this month, I was just getting. Matter of fact, today, or within another week, I was just getting out. No, let me see. It's November, so sorry. Uh, no, I was getting ready to go in my fourth hospital from COVID Delta, and when my wife took me in, she'd had it, but had taken ivermectin. It was over it real quick. And a week later, she said, let's get you tested. I didn't feel bad. I always hurt. But make a long story short, I was 62% on blood oxygen. So I was about 20 points under a major heart attack. And as soon as we got to the hospital door, they stuck me on oxygen. And I was in ICU, and they told her to go home and make funeral arrangements.
Wow.
And so I spent the next 5 months in four hospitals from September, October, November, December, and January. So I was, but again, I pulled through it. And it's a lot of it. The doctor told me, he said, it was your attitude. We didn't expect you to live. I couldn't tell you that then because of the fact that you were 71. You've had punctured lungs. You've drowned. Your lungs are not the best shape that could be. And every time you'd ask me, am I going to die or will I make it or whatever? And I said, well, I don't know. And I couldn't tell you, we don't think so, but we're going to keep working on you. You came back at me and with a lot of bad swear words and how you were going to beat it. And I had to ask your wife, where does he come with all these swear words? She says, well, the Marine Corps, I think, helped a little bit, but just overall attitude. Don't let it get you down. You got to reach in and grab something to hang on to.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Attitude is everything. Again, going back to what I was told now, I've had 7 surgeries and I'm about to have a knee replacement in January. And I'm already thinking ahead to the recovery. It's like I'm not thinking about the pain. I'm thinking about being recovered. It's like that's the mission. The mission is to get back to where I am right now. It's like I'm 51 years old and I'm super active. But people focus on the what, right? They focus on the what. Like, oh, I have to have a knee replacement. I'm gonna be on crutches. I'm gonna this. I'm gonna that. But I'm focused on the end result, and that's what's going to drive me day to day. So when you were going through all of your ordeals, what was it like? Because you battled near death stuff. I'm just having my knee fixed, right? So you were battling near death stuff. What was it like just in your day to day life, knowing that could be a reality?
I don't even. I don't know how to say it. I mean, I really don't know how to respond because I don't remember thinking like that. I don't remember, you mentioned about having a knee replaced. I've had 16 surgeries on my left knee, and
Wow.
it's been replaced 3 times, and now I'm mostly paralyzed, so I can't even use it, even though they replaced it 7 years ago for the third time. And if they do a really good job, you're going to be good. And you just got to keep that thought, and read and discover what can you do, and follow the therapy lessons and do a little bit more than they tell you because it will help.
Oh, I always do. Yep.
And I'm an overachiever, so but I I don't recall having a woe is me or why me issue. It's just built into me to want to move ahead, to survive. And that's why I say, describe myself. I don't know. I just seem to be a survivor. And when God takes me the last time, and that's my last time. But I've certainly been through. I mean, I've had last about 5 months ago, I had my 73rd surgery. So
Wow.
that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had surgeries that are only a couple hours long, and I've had surgeries that are 15 hours long, and
Yeah.
brainstem surgeries to ankles to. I've had my right wrist and my left elbow are the only two parts of my body, including my skull, that haven't been broken, crushed, uh, replaced, fused, rotted, pinned, or something. And I mean, I'm talking femurs, tibias, deltoid muscles, ribs, lungs. So I guess each one's a champion. You champion that cause. And I made it through this. And it's something that a lot of people don't do that they should do. You got a knee surgery coming up. Look back at what it took you to recover from your other surgeries, your other problems, the other things you were told you won't do. And what did you do to manifest, to use a word you used earlier? I don't use that word very often, but it's a good word. What did you do then to manifest the thought process to get you through it? So I guess I'm flipping the script on you and saying, okay, so use that to help move. And that's what I had to do. When I broke my
Yeah.
neck, I mean, they were very upset that I would talk so much about having what I went through in the Marine Corps or the other accident. But I had so much wrong with me. I mean, so much damage, third-degree burns, tracheotomies. You can't. There's hardly much of anything you can name. Coma, put back in a coma. 32 facial fractures, skull fractures, third-degree burns on my head, my leg, and so on. And so, don't if you look at everything and say, hey, I made it that next minute, now I need to make it another minute. And those minutes become an hour. Those hours become a day. The days become a week. The weeks become a month. And pretty soon, it's like, you know what? I didn't die like I thought I was going to a month ago or whatever, and I think that's a lot of it. You just got to keep that positive outlook, that attitude, and take that attitude that you're going to kick its butt and move forward. That's all. I mean, the name of your show, Shut Up and Grind. That's what it is. You got to grind it out. You got to move forward, and nothing worthwhile comes easy. So, and nothing worthwhile comes without some pain. So I don't care, and I don't mean physical pain, but mental pain or time pain, or pain can take on a vast array of ideas, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of people respond to pain, unfortunately, because sometimes, like we were talking earlier about the fight or flight response, and a lot of times people, it'll take something happening to them for them to really jumpstart into that fight mode. But someone like me, I can flip it on and off, so I can just, relax, take it easy. But then you get a situation, like I mentioned with that event I got to MC, and I ended up getting a day off from my side hustle. And, it's like once you're focused on your purpose, all these doors start to open, right? So whether it's physical pain, like you were describing, or whether it's mental pain, you have to make the decision that you're not going to stay in that place.
Yep.
Like with me, I'm sitting here with a brace on my knee, and I still walk around clad. Like, you can't tell with the background, but I'm sitting in a gym right now, right? We have a basketball hoop in there, and I'm just going about my everyday life. And some of my clients are like, how are you doing that with your knee? I'm like, because I'm not a punk. It's like, yeah, my knee hurts, but it's not going to stop me. I'm going to do the things that I enjoy. It's like they don't ever hear me complain about it. They might see me adjust the brace every now and then, but it's like I'm focused on the things that I enjoy. I'm not focused on the one little part of my day, that I'm going to feel with every step. And I'm sure that had to be you during your recovery, right? I'm sure you didn't just wake up every day and say, "Oh, I'm in pain again. Oh, I'm in pain again."
You don't think about it because you are in pain all the time. But when I
Yeah.
have my halo cast bolted my skull, or my back was hurting last Saturday, but no, Sunday. Sunday was a bad day. But I went to a car show that was all for veterans. It's all nonprofit, and I know the gentleman that put it on. He asked me to be there, and I wasn't not going to show up, and I got there probably about 11 o'clock, and I didn't leave till 5 o'clock, and it was a windy day, and I was hurting, and I'm in my wheelchair cruising around and talking to people and veterans and other Marines, and even guys that weren't Marine Corps. It's like, share with them. And I've got some cars in museums that are collector cars that I got to talk about them a little bit because I would compliment the guy on his car. Oh, really? What do you have? It's like, oh, okay, I got a 67 Shelby GT500 over in a museum up in northern Georgia. Well, what's it doing in Georgia? You're in Texas. Well, I don't. That's just a home that it found. That's all. And so if you look at and concentrate and think about other things in your life and things that will help you and things that will help others, I think that you really, really helping others can change your life so much. It's it can helping others can change your life more than helping yourself sometimes, because helping others helps you. And I've said for a long time, the more people you help, the better person you become. And I believe it with all my heart.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I'd probably say that at least once throughout the episode. I tell people, talking about purpose, anything that you do, if there's a higher purpose, you show up as a different type of person. Like when people walk into this gym and they're like, "All right, yeah, I wanna lose 20 pounds," and I'm like, "Why?" I was like, "How will that benefit you?" And then it's like, who else will that benefit? Right? Because now it's not just about me losing 20 pounds. Like I want to lose 20 pounds to be a good example for my kids, to be an inspiration to my coworkers, and maybe inspire my significant other to get healthier as well. Right? So now you're not just showing up for you because you added that higher purpose. So what does the word purpose mean to you?
I, I'm going to share it from like this, and this is a short story,
Okay.
but about 25 years ago, I had a business that I had started from the ground up in my house, and we were into seven figures at the time, and it was only been about 4 or 5 years, and well into the seven figures. And I had a assistant principal at a school, an alternative high school, where kids go that have problems or been kicked out, or they're given a
Yes.
second chance. And he asked me to speak about my company, and I said, "Nah, I'm not. No thanks." I what are they going to understand about what we're doing? We were doing graphics production that sent trade shows, trade show booths, and trade show setups around the world, or locally, or within the United States. And I just, second year came along. He asked me the same thing. Third year came along, and I said, "Nah, I'm fine. I'm good." And he said, "Well, we're going to have an attorney and a doctor, and the Army's going to be there." I go, "The Army? They can't tell them anything. And who wants to listen to an attorney talk? I just not good." So I told him, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." And so I thought about it, and I flipped the script though. And going into the class, I had 5 classes, 55 minutes each class. And when I went in, I told all of my, the first thing I said is, hello and who I am. And I said, I want you to know that I consider you all winners. You're all winners, because the losers are out there. And I pointed at the window. They didn't even come in to try. And so I told them a little bit about the business, for about a minute and a half. Then I flipped it and I said, let's talk about what it takes to get through life. Let's talk about what it takes to get through life, because that's a purpose. You got to have something that's making you do something to cause you to keep moving forward, not just take this test and get out. What am I going to do after I take the test? So, I started out just very briefly. I started out with, Anybody here ever heard of Ford Motor Company? Well, sure, everybody. Okay, did you know Mr. Ford went bankrupt 3 times before he became Henry Ford? Mr. Hershey candy bars, he went
Oh
bankrupt
yeah.
4 times. Walt Disney went bankrupt 5 times and had a nervous breakdown. And he'd have a nervous breakdown if he saw what Walt Disney turned into today. But, you know,
Thanks.
back in those days, it was a thing. Um, there's a guy named Ted Geisel, and I always ask, anybody ever heard of Ted Geisel? And it's a good question for everybody. And most nobody ever has heard of him, but he had written children's books, and he went to publishers and publishers and publishers, and he was really distraught. And he'd been out, like once a week, he'd go see another publisher with a special setup about his books. And he came home after the 22nd time and couldn't make it. And that night, he changed his name. And on the next day, he went out with a new name and he got a publishing agreement for the rest of his life. It changed his life. He changed his name from Ted Geisel to Dr. Seuss.
I knew you
Now,
were going there.
now,
Okay.
what if he would have changed? What if he would have stopped? So anyhow, I went through this class and I told him about a young boy that had died in the Marine Corps, and blah blah blah. And I didn't tell him it was me. And at the end, I said, so what if I would have quit? And I was on a walker because I was able to walk. I had leg braces and crutches and a cane and stuff, and I walked for about 15 or 16 years, and I had brainstem surgeries, and it put me on a walker for about 17 or 18 years. Now I've been in a wheelchair because things just keep getting worse. But, it is what it is, and so I, I've had to learn to walk several times in my life. But at any rate, at the last class of the day, I said, what we talked about was what it takes to get through life. And all of you are going to get out of here and want to get a job. And that's part of what it is. And I hire a lot of, not a lot of people, but I hire enough people. And like in the first class today, I had, and this is the purpose, this is what I'm trying to get to. The purpose in this case changed my life. And the first class today, there was a person in the class that wasn't dressed the best, and they didn't pay attention, and they didn't take notes, or they didn't observe, they had no eye contact, nothing, blah blah blah. And in this class, there's somebody in here they're dressed very professionally, they've had great eye contact, they've looked, they've nodded their head, they've made notes, they've paid attention. Now that first person today, I wouldn't hire. I don't care if he's got a doctorate degree. I have no interest. This person today, right now in this class, I would hire them today because of what they've shown me. And what they're showing me is a purpose. They have a purpose where they're going. They have an interest in life. And, and I was a 50-year-old white guy with gray hair, And I pointed out and I said, and it's a young lady sitting right over there with a purple dress on. And it was a young black girl. And after the class, and people started to leave, the superintendent of schools, who I didn't know, and the school was the Montgomery County School District in Texas, and 175,000 students at the time. And he said, "I've never had anybody talk to students like this, ever. I'm impressed," and it made me feel good. It made me feel good. But what changed my life was this young gal that I had pointed out came walking across the room when everybody else had gone. I was getting my papers together, and I didn't have many papers, but get it together so I could carry it with my walker. And she had tears streaming down her face, just running down her face. And she put her hand out to shake my hand, and my only hand that works is my left hand. And I shook her hand, and she says, "Sir, I want you to know you have changed my life." And it made me cry. It made me cry. I mean, the tears just ran, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk. I mean, that meant more to me than I don't know. That showed me there was a purpose for me to have accepted that speech the third year, the last class of the last day, to pay attention, to bring out. And I've always wondered whatever happened to her. But it really affected me tremendously, because it's not about color, it's not about age, it's about character, it's about who you are, what you want to do. It's about your purpose, and your purpose there, that I don't know. That's what purpose meant to me that day. It changed my life.
Yeah, when you're in this speaking game, that's what it's about. It's like if you're in a room full of 500 people, like you don't really have to move all 500. It's like out of that 500, you might move 20, and that's significant because those 20 people are going to take what you said and they're going to run with it, and they're going to change their lives. And you go into the next group and it's the same thing, so on and so forth. Like I spoke in 2016 at the Fit Ranks World Conference in Las Vegas, and I think there was about 110 people in the room, I want to say. So I did my talk, and then at the end, similar but just with adults, this couple and their brother come up, and all three of them are just bawling, and they were like, we were here to hear your message. And I was like, wow, like that was one of the first big boy talks that I had ever given, but that just hit me. It hit me so hard. It's kind of like you, because like when you're putting stuff together and when you're first starting out, you're like, who's gonna listen to me? You get that little bit of imposter syndrome. But then now I understand the speaking game, and I know how to do it well, and I know how to get through to people. But it's not about me. It's about the people that receive it.
Right,
Like that's what
right,
people
right,
don't understand, right? We don't get up here to hear ourselves talk.
right, right. And I tell people, a lot of people, it's like, how do you get ahead? A lot of it, so much of it up is that to each individual. So I tell everybody, I said, get a pen, get a pencil, get a pen. If you don't have one, steal one. If you can't steal one, I've got some up here, but I want you to write down 10 two-letter words that make a difference and will change your life. 10 two-letter words, very basic. If it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. Because I can't do what Robert Foster's doing today. That's not me. That's Robert. Robert can't do what I've got to do, or sit in this wheelchair. He doesn't want to do that. And so if it is to be, it is up to me. Really is an impactful statement that can change a lot. And when you say it about, 10% or 20% of a group of people, that's the same with how do you learn a lot? And I think that people learn. I went to, I had the opportunity back when Zig Ziglar was alive to see Zig about 15 times. And after about the fifth time, I was in my walker one time, and he said, "Sir, come up here. I've seen you in here before. I've seen you before." And this was at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, out west of Chicago, about 20 miles from downtown. And it doesn't even exist anymore. But he said, why do you come? I said, well, because I get a little bit out of everything you say, and that's the point, is that you get a little bit. If you go to 1,000 talks or 100 talks or 100 tapes or read 100 books, you get a little bit out of everything, and pretty soon you got a lot. You just don't go to one conference and get everything. It's not like going and sitting by the River Jordan and listen to Christ talk, and it's going to save your life. That's not how it's going to happen. But so from that point on, for about the next 10 times, I saw him in different states and different times. And as a matter of fact, he had a secretary sent me some tickets, and they were open tickets for good whenever I wanted to go, if I happened to be in the area. And but just a wonderful person. But I learned a lot, and his his accepting me for keeping on coming. And when I told him, I said, because I get something out of every time you talk, you, you may cover the same thing three different times, but you cover it in a different way. You approach it in a different way. And Robert, I'm sure that when you talk, you may have given the same talk, you just make it a little bit different for this group. And that's all it takes. That's all it is. It's just a little bit. It's not much, but yeah, I think we're both very, very fortunate in that to have a purpose. I really do.
Agreed. I want to circle back to what you were saying about speaking in that classroom, because I spoke in one back in September. It was just talking about, like, they wanted me to just talk about the fitness industry. But once I got into the classroom, I was like, I want to talk to them about life, kind of how you said, right? I was like, I want to talk to them about life. And so, the teacher gave me the go ahead to just do my thing. And just as I'm pouring into these kids, it's like they were locked in. Like, how hard it is to get the attention of a teenager nowadays, right? But they were locked in on my talk. I was just talking about, purpose and, starting now. I was like, you can't wait till you're an adult to learn how to be an adult. It's like, you got to learn how to be an adult now. Start now. Get an idea of what you want to do. And you can always pivot, right? You can always pivot. I'm starting a speaking business, and I started speaking in my mid-40s, so it's like you can always pivot, but just start now. And the feedback from all the students, because there were 30 different speakers going throughout the classrooms. And I asked the kids, like, has anyone else covered this stuff with you? And they're all like, no. They're like, absolutely not. And just the feedback that I got from them was incredible. Like, these kids, they want that knowledge. Like, they want those deep dive talks, but a lot of people aren't giving it to them.
Well, a lot of people, Robert, don't. I kind of like to do a speaking tour. I really would, and I think I could do okay. I know I could. It's a self-confidence thing, but my problem is my paralysis, my wheelchair, my pain, traveling. It just the two kind of don't mesh, and I'll figure some way out if I want to continue on it. Plus, I'll be 76 New Year's Eve. So, but
Okay.
the issue that you just mentioned is that a lot of times people don't delve into the group that they're talking to ask, or the person they're talking to, an individual, what it is that's important to them. And so no matter what you say, is I look at it like this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes. Very
And that's
true.
a very strong statement. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So why do I care what you're telling me about? I heard a pretty good thing. As a matter of fact, I heard it from a friend of mine who was also a Marine, and his son was at school, high school, and he said, "Dad, I'm going in the Marine Corps." And his dad says, his dad was a Marine friend of mine, and he said, "Son, what? Why? I thought you were talking about potentially going Air Force because you did real good on this ASVAB, this test they take now, which we didn't have that test back when I went in." And
Yeah.
he said, "Well, the Army came in and they gave a really the Army, Navy, and Marine, or Army, Navy, and Air Force all gave this really nice presentation and PowerPoint slides and why us and blah blah blah, and took 15 minutes and did it." And he said, then this Marine gunnery sergeant came up and said, "I don't know if I want any of you in my Marine Corps because I don't know that if any of you could even make it in my Marine Corps. It's hard. It's tough. Nobody wants it. It's direct. Nobody else is going to do to you what we're going to do to you. Nobody's going to change your life like we're going to change your life." So, with that being said, and I don't think any of you can really probably make it, but if any of you think you might be able to make it, I'll be at the back of the room. And he shut up and went and sat down. 3-4 minutes. That was it. It was over. No PowerPoint, nothing else. And people were there lined up to enlist in the Marine Corps. Well, what he did, he kind of, he set up a screen. He set up what's up, boy? I can't think of the word. He set up he filtered them out. He filtered out the ones that don't want to have tears and sweat and blood. He didn't want he didn't want them, and that's what they don't want. I mean, you've got to have that. So just by looking at it like that, he got his message across a lot stronger than all this fancy stuff, which people know is, well, it is what it
You were the second one this month to tell that story.
Really?
So, Yeah, someone else told that a couple weeks ago.
Whoa, that is
See,
crazy.
well, what it is, right? Because even here in the gym or in any of my coaching programs, we always use the word qualify. It's like we
Mhm.
want to see if you qualify for our program. And people like, I have to qualify. So like for those people, it makes them step up. It raises the expectation. Because like here, we do very high energy classes here. So like if somebody has like say a yoga background, and I know yoga can be tough, but it's different than what we do because you're working at an elevated heart rate. So like we want people to know up front, if you qualify for this program, here are our expectations. And again, going back to we have the fight or flight, that actually tickles some people's fight. It's like, oh, it's a challenge. All right, I'm in then. So that's what that officer did.
Yeah, it just is can you accept it? Are you man enough to handle it, or woman
Yeah,
enough to handle it? And if you're not, that's fine. Understand. Maybe you're
yeah,
going to be better off being a librarian. Well, librarians won't exist here pretty soon. That'll
true.
be taken over by AI. I don't
That's
think
true.
people know. Yeah, there's so much of that that's gone, and people got to get tough. They got to get tough because things are going to change a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
I look back and wish that things were like they were in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And there's a lot of people out here that aren't even that old. It's like they, you know, they go, when? That was last century, and it was last century, come to think of it. But it's like, just because things have gotten easier, things have gotten tougher too. I mean, I call it the microwave society. I have for years. Everybody wants it now. They don't want to work
yeah.
for it. They don't want to climb the stairs. They don't want to pound it. They don't want to run up and down the gymnasium stairs 300 times a day, or climb the rope to the ceiling and hit the ceiling and hit it and do that 10 times to strengthen their upper body, shoulders, hands, forearms. They just don't want to do it. Why? Oh, it hurts, or it's I sweat, or well, then they didn't qualify. It gets back to your point. If you can't, if you're not
Hmm.
going to be willing to pay for it, and I spoke to a group of people, and you have to kind of say it with a temper or tempered, but it was a young group about, gosh, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And the gentleman that asked me, they were about 23 to 30 years old, 35 years old, and in the back of the group there were about 35 or 40 of them, and up in the back of the group there were 4 or 5 people with gray hair. So I figured, okay, these people know where I'm coming from, and it wasn't really so much a talk; it was more of an answer question or a question answer period. And at the time, and they said, let's give it like an hour, and we covered some things, and it was interesting. And I said, I got time for one more question or one more comment. And anybody got anything? And this young man raised his hand, and he was probably, I'm going to guess, 25, something like that. And he said, I came out of the bathroom this morning. And I said, yes, sir. Well, go ahead. He said, I came out of the bathroom real quick this morning. I hit my shin on the edge of my bed. And we know how that feels. It's like, oh my
Hmm.
God.
It's like
If
stepping
you
on a
want,
Lego.
no, it's worse. You take somebody wrap you in the leg in the shin with a 2x4. It hurts. But he said I fell down, and I actually got up. I hurt like heck. Got my pants on, got my shoes on, came to work. That was yesterday. This was a Tuesday, and he said, "What it hurts worse." And I said, "Well, bruising usually does, but so your question is?" He said, "I just want to know, do you think I should take off and go home the rest of the week until it heals and feels a lot better, and then come back to work Monday?" And I said, "No, and I'll tell you why. Number one, here it is. It's just plain and simple. And not to be offensive, but sweat dries, blood clots, and broken bones heal. Suck it up. You already been here. Why would you go home now? You've already proven you can take it, but suck it up. And these kids, most of them all looked at each other like, did you imagine what he said? And all the people with the gray hair in the back of the room at the top stood up and go, because
Yep.
they knew what I was coming from. It's like life's tough. I mean, if you run out of gas, you might have to walk 5 miles, and then they don't have a gas can available. Well, you got to figure something else out. And it's just, if it is to be, it is up to me. It gets back to the same thing. They didn't run out of gas, so, but
See,
anyhow.
that's where people where the easy times is making people impatient, making them less tolerant, we'll say, because I mean, you're older than I am, but I still remember the days before cell phones. Like I remember the
Oh,
days riding my bike to the library to research information. Whereas now you just pick up your phone, hey Google or hey Siri or whatever, and the information is instant. And now with Chat GPT, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I use it all the time. Like you can pump out information so fast with it, but it takes away the art of the struggle. Like in being an athlete, like anyone that's done sports, to be at an elite level, it requires a lot of work. And not everybody's willing to put that work in. They'd rather sit and scroll and just go to the job that they hate for 8 hours a day. And it's like it doesn't have to be that way.
uh,
Going back to purpose. It's like what lights up your soul. And for me, it was always helping people. So that's why I'm here in the gym working with my clients. I coach track and field. I do 2 podcasts and I guest on podcasts. It's like everything that I do in my life is within the things that light my soul. And so when you're giving those talks to those kids, it's like that's the message that they need to receive. It's like not just what do you want to do, what makes you happy, and then find a career in that thing that makes you happy. So I'm gonna kick it back to you for some final words, and then we'll have some final words, and then we'll break this down.
well, I think one thing you just hit on, Robert, was too many people. Number one, you get back to the bicycle, right into the library to pull out the drawer, to find the card, to go get the book, to do all that. It took work, and when you got that done, you you learned more because it took a process to go through it. It's like you don't build biceps and cardio and whatever else by going, oh, I'll Google it, how to do this. Okay, I Googled it, but I'm not going to do it.
Mm.
So I want to respond to your question, and I forgot the last part of it now because I wanted to get that back out about the library cards. Go ahead, ask me your question again.
Oh no, I was just saying to give us some final words.
I just, I think well, I've got a book coming out, and I think it really says a lot in it because the name of it is "The Strength Within You," and it's always too soon to quit. And that's the whole point. You have to find the strength within you. The strength within you may come from your family, your faith, your relatives, your friends, or anger or frustration. But if you have pain, dig into that pain. What's it going to take to get me through that? I'm in a lot of pain, but I will think over the pain or through the pain because maybe I don't get rid of it, but I don't think about it. If you're just sitting all alone quietly and all you got's the pain, that's terrible. So busy hands make for a busy mind. Do something. But just you can't give up. You just can't quit. And dig within yourself to find where it is. And I think that's really it. It's something that I've been through multiples of times, and deaths and surgeries and whatnot. And if I'm going to be 76 and haven't quit, why should they? And I think it is too much comes too easy. And it's easier because it's like something that's not good for you to eat. Might taste great, but it's not good for you. And if you're doing your cardiovascular and your gym techniques and your qualifications, well, okay, if they come in and they're why do you want to lose weight? Well, because I want to be healthier, I want to do this. They've got a reason. Well, but are they willing to pay the price to do what it's going to take to lose the weight? And I find a purpose, but if you're not happy with whatever you elect to do, find something else. I would rather make 50,000 a year. Let's just throw a number at it. I don't care. 50,000 a year and enjoy my job and really feel good about it, and I'm fulfilled within that purpose, than I would to make $200,000 a year and go, oh my gosh, I gotta go to work. I hate this job. I'm not. You're not willing to help anybody. You're not willing to to reach out. And I think that's the whole thing. It gets back to a lot of what you mentioned before, and that gets back to purpose. And we all have a purpose in our life, and I felt that day with that young lady, and I felt that way since then. But that one just really struck me. But I just say, live your life. Live your life like you want to help others. Live your health not like you want to help others. Live your life helping others, and giving, because giving is much better than receiving.
Great.
That's it.
All right, let people know how they can connect with you.
Well, I've got a website called Never Quit Trying, and I've got an email, Jay at my first name, Jay, but Jay at Never Quit Trying. They could get it on that. They could go to the website. The website's got a placeholder. It's just about finished. It'll be up and running within the next week or two, and the book will be out. The Strength Within You. It's Always Too Soon to Quit will be out and available in multiple locations within probably about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. But it covers a lot about what we've talked about. Yes, it covers some of my medical issues, but it covers about what do you do to get over your adversities, the roadblocks, all the stuff that's in front of you, and it's all about finding that, as you mentioned before, resilience, the strength, the courage, the perseverance, the determination, and the willingness to never give up, never quit. It's always too soon to quit.
Love it. And the only thing I'll add to that before I cue the outro is that I always say, feel the fear, do it anyway. Feel the frustration, do it anyway.
Oh.
You're not in the mood, do it anyway. Just do it anyway. It's that simple.
It's called discipline.
Yes.
The discipline to do it. I don't want to go lift. I don't want to go do 100 more exercises, but you know what? I got to do them. That's discipline.
Got to do it. Love it. All right, Jay. Thank you very much for coming on, sharing your stories, sharing your struggles, and your inspiration. So I would like to have you back on again, maybe on one of the panels. I always do this. Like I said, since they updated this, the buttons are different now. All right, there it is. Yeah, so like with this particular one, our topic was embracing vulnerability. And so I bring back, like I usually invite 6. Sometimes all 6 come. Sometimes like this one, we only have 4. But we pick one topic, right? We pick one topic and we round table that one topic. And I do that because there's no one way to do everything. Like what works for you may not work for me, may not work for my sister, so on and so forth. So we take that one topic and we give 7 different perspectives on that one topic. Like they're a lot of fun, and a lot of like collaborations and stuff have come from these panels too. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll keep you in the loop.
No, I'd enjoy that very much. I think a round table is a very good way to, you can get all sorts of different ideas for a lot of different people.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely. 100%. I'd love it.
All right. Awesome. All right. So you're in. All right. So again, thank you for taking the time, and we'll see you next time.
All right, sir. Thanks, Robert. God bless.
Pleasure.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.